Hello and welcome back to the Dialectic Space podcast. It's with me, Ibrahim Asonko, and today I have the singular honor and privilege to have my big brother, my mentor, my senior, and also somebody that I have great and deep respect and admiration for as long as I've met him, for as long as I followed his life and work. And ladies and gentlemen, today my guest is Mr. Essa Faal, a leader of Sobea political party, internationally acclaimed lawyer and legal mind who have greatly influenced the international legal system in terms of his contributions, in terms of his work. We can go on and on in terms of the impact that he has created. And today, I've asked him to come on the show. By the way, this has worked for a while to make this happen, but obviously Essa is very busy. He's very engaged, but I'm super excited that we're able to finally put something on the books to make this happen. For us to explore various aspects of his work as a lawyer, as an international attorney, both as a prosecutor and investigator, but also as a defense attorney, and by extension, now a lot of what he does that has to do with the politics is another aspect that we are going to explore, especially as we lay plans ahead of the December presidential elections. So today, I'm going to present to you an essay that perhaps some of you have missed a little bit. That is also, this is a brilliant lawyer that have done a lot of work in this respect. Certainly, the TRRC is one popular place that a lot of him remember him for, but SR goes beyond that. And my goal today is really to lead the conversation towards the direction about a man who has dedicated his life to the cause of legal work, to the cause of human rights, to the cause of developing legal knowledge in various forms and ways around Africa and also around the world as well. So, Essa, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you, Ibrahim, and thank you for having me. I mean, when you did the introduction, for a moment I thought you were describing someone else. But thank you. I am honored and happy to be here. And I hope that I would live up to expectations. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Essa. You know, and I had Baba Gale here not too long ago, and one of the things that I said to him is, in my very young professional life, one of the biggest honors that I've ever had is working at the TRRC, and I thought I can begin the conversation there. And I said that to Baba simply because of the kind of leaders that I had before me at the TRRC. Now, a lot of people may not know, but the composition of TRRC secretariat was mostly young people. These are young people mostly who just graduated from the university, and sometimes people who haven't even graduated from the University of the Gambia. But the kind of leadership I saw through you and through Baba Galejalo in terms of how you took us in and you allowed us to lead and also to learn, I think is something that for me until today it lives with me. And I can talk about it everywhere that I go to because I see how seriously you took your work. I've seen the commitment that you put into it. I feel like we don't talk about that enough, but I've seen most importantly your professionalism with which you do your work, right? And so I just wanted to begin there by telling you thank you very much for inspiring us in those days. You know, I used to look at you stay at the office until late night, just to make sure you get things done, and that has also been manifested in the outcome of the work that you presented before the commission. It speaks to how serious you take things that matter to you. So thank you very much.
Well, I should say thank you to all of you. To be quite candid, TRRC gave me a unique opportunity to see young Gambians at work. It strengthened my deep faith and respect for the UTG because a lot of you guys graduated from the UTG. And I said to myself, these people are able to achieve at high level, even with rudimentary facilities. What would happen if these young Gambians were exposed to bigger and better facilities? They would excel beyond belief. So the other day I spoke about the UTG and people misinterpreted what I said. All I was doing was to lament the fact that government is not putting enough resources in this institution. And this is our only hope. This is the only thing we have. To the extent that even you finish a degree in UTG, No matter how good you are, because you are lacking in some facilities, you cannot be accepted for a master's program elsewhere. This is not to say that UTG has not produced people like your humble self who have achieved great things. And I have met UTG students around the world, and they have achieved a lot of great things. I went to Geneva to see Abdomani at the
Lord Denin.
Geneva Academy of International Law, Dr. Denning, and
Mhm.
he did exceptionally well there.
Yeah.
And you have them all around. Some of them went to Oxford and top-notch universities. So I have the greatest respect for them. But the other day when I lamented some of these problems, it was taken out of context. People gave it a big political spin and all that. I had to come out and apologize profusely, not so much because what I said may have been wrong, but simply because it hurts some feelings.
Yeah.
The last thing I would want to do is to hurt anybody's feelings, especially somebody who paid dearly to get an education. Education in Gambia is expensive for a lot of us. I personally pay for a lot of students at UTG because I believe in the institution. It's the only thing we got anyway.
Yeah.
And occasionally I give talks and lectures there. Just about last month, I did a lecture at the medical school that was very, very well received by these budding doctors. So to those who still feel offended by what I have said, I say I am sorry. I will always have the humility to own up to what is expected that I should own up to be held accountable. So I am sorry. I did not mean to ruffle feathers or to hurt anybody's feeling. I meant to really support the rallying cry of the UTG students that they're not receiving all the support and facilities they need from the government to make their education better. That's all that I was trying to do. So for those who offended, I am sorry. I did not mean to offend. I was just joining you in order to make this important point. So for you UTG students, graduates at the TRRC, you made life, I mean, comfortable for us. I had Maria Masingate as one of the lawyers in my team.
Mhm.
And she was great at helping me manage things, at helping me organize things. And I would forever be grateful to her. And all of you really contributed greatly. So this was a two-way street. We
Yeah.
came with experience from abroad. You guys came with the knowledge and local knowledge as well, and helped us to produce a great truth commission, one that is being talked about in every academy in which international law and transitional justice is studied, one that is discussed in international organizations, and one that is also discussed as a model for consideration by countries that have problems similar to ours. So thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Faal. And I think it will also be appropriate for me to add that because I've been part of the TRRC, I can recount the amount of times that I've seen individuals come to you for help. I've seen this, and I know people who have seen this, and I know you don't like anybody to bring this up because that's not the reason you do it. I've seen the extent to which you've gone to support UTG students, not only UTG students or people that come to TRRC to seek for support on daily basis, but also people who needed help who were going for international studies. Uh, I've been part of, I've been part of a scenario where you help somebody literally. You went out of your way to make sure that person gets the best of comfort as they were going for foreign studies. Just to make the point that I think people who sort of sometimes get upset when you make these comments, they don't really understand just the level of support you also give the students. I think you're trying to bring awareness to something that is very, very important. Uh,
Ibrahim, I heard about, I know about your uncle, Karamo. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
I mean,
You know, Alaji and I, we go back a very long way from being classmates to being the best of buddies, being in the same club and doing everything together since 1985, 1984, 85, until today.
yeah.
Uh, and we have learned from Karamo that life is only meaningful if you are of service to your people. And this is what we try to emulate.
Yeah.
I mean, be it at the TRRC or anywhere, my life is dedicated to helping people. That's all I do. That's where I get my kick. Uh, no matter what I have, if I do not use it to help people, to solve problems of society, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And that is who I am. But people, a lot of people don't understand me. They
And
see
that's what
me and
I do want to
they
ask you
kind
that.
of
Do
be
you
like
feel?
a facade.
I do want to ask you that. Do you feel misunderstood sometimes by Gambians?
Very much so. Look, I am a Banjul boy, born and bred. There, I have a particular kind of socialization.
Yeah.
And to survive in Banjul, remember, there were two periods of my life growing up when my father went abroad for studies. You know, when I was about 4 or 5, my father went to Ghana for studies. And when I was 12, 13, my father went to UK for studies. So during these periods, I went through very rough patches in my life. And this involved having to stand up for myself because I am the eldest in my family, my immediate family. So I have to stand up for me and my siblings. And in Has Banjul, I, I was born in a home that was everybody's home. In fact, we had two entrances to our home. My grandmother would bring anybody in the home for as long as you don't have a place to sleep, or you don't have a place to eat, or you don't have a host in Banjul. My home is your home. My grandmother would take anybody. In fact, for most of the time growing up, we had more than 20 people in our home who do not belong to our immediate family. And it was really a revolving door. People come in and others go. Like, say, for Katong, for instance, most people who come to Banjul for high school from Katong would
Hmm.
stay in our home. And it was like that for a lot of other people.
Hmm.
So I had to develop certain survival skills, not from those people, but from the harsh reality of Banjul, because Banjul, it has its own way. You have to be street smart, you have to be cocky, you have to be confident in order to survive, especially the bullying. We had what was called 30 pack. You have to be able to survive 30 pack because that's where we all played football, that's where we meet and do things. You have to be able to stand it. And that is, you have to be able to stand up to bullies. You have to be able to defend yourself, not just physically, but also in every sense of the word. You have to defend your arguments, what you say, how you say things, and stuff like that. So that, to me, gave me the confidence that I needed to survive this world. It gave me the belief in myself, which people confuse as arrogance. Oh, this boy is arrogant. I don't know what arrogance is. If anybody knows who my parents are, like my father, who was a school headmaster, school principal, very strict disciplinarian, I cannot be arrogant. But because I have a lot of confidence in myself and my abilities, so people confuse that with arrogance. But look, I cannot focus on some of the negatives that people say about me.
Hmm.
Uh, and a lot of it is just because of politics.
Yeah.
Because I am in politics, some people would choose to focus on things that make me look bad
Yeah.
instead of things that make me look good. But if they would look at the qualities that I have, I think every human being that I meet would have only good things to say about me. Simply because I don't do good things to be recognized. No, doing good is my way of life. That is what I know. That is what I do on a daily basis from morning till night.
Yeah.
So for those who misunderstand me, well, tough luck. I wish you would
Yeah.
have known the real person. Thank you.
Yeah. No, certainly. I also think, professionally, your orientation, and training is also different, and that also sometimes I think plays some role in terms of how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you communicate, how you do things a certain way, because you've been out of the country for a while. And I don't think a lot of people sometimes they don't take a step back to just watch some of the things and some of the works, the groundbreaking works that you've done all around the world. And so I'm really interested to ask you in that regard, in terms of your orientation from training that you've had as a lawyer, and what sort of legal philosophy guided you towards some of the continental works that you've done as a lawyer.
Well, in terms of training, really, everybody knows I went to Forobe College, which is one of the most difficult universities to really survive in Africa. FBC, it's just crazy. It's a difficult place, and I went there at a time when Sierra Leone was in serious economic difficulties. So everybody would know what that means. I mean, historically, Forobe College established 1827, the first English-speaking university in Africa. We used to call it the citadel of learning, the apogee of higher education. Universities there, we call it, they have some little bongo, That's where I went, and then University of the West Indies to study legislative drafting. This is a unique course, really, that I think every lawyer should study, really. It gives you a unique perspective and a unique understanding of law. Because you'd be expected to write law, to translate policy into law. And to do that, you really need to have a very good grasp, a really good understanding on the raison d'etre of law. Why law? And this brings me really to this question that you ask about how this has impacted my work abroad. In the last 100 years, there are. I beg the pardon of the listeners to understand my worldview. I am trained as a common law lawyer, so that's the perspective through which I look at a lot of things. So pardon me if mine is a bit narrow. But in the last 100 years, really, there are a few landmark English cases that has shaped the understanding of law of a lot of recently trained lawyers. You remember Wilmington and DPP, the presumption of innocence. That's a landmark case that every lawyer would just churn out like that. But that puts an important view of things in every trained lawyer. The other is Donoghue and Stevenson.
Stevenson. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Donoghue and Stevenson, the snail in the beer can case. That brings in all this concept of negligence, who is your neighbor, and all that. These are important issues. But there is another case that's least talked about. That is R.V. Sussex, I think it's Sussex Justices, ex parte McCarthy. That is also a very, very significant landmark case. It talks about the whole architecture of the judiciary, what it does and how its product is seen. That is, justice must be seen to be done, must not only be done, but must be seen to be done. Just that little phrase by Lord Hewitt has reshaped the architecture of justice for over a century, really. And for me, working internationally, that has been my mantra. Justice is important. It must not only be done, but it must be seen to be done. So that deals with all the issues of bias, all the issues of conflicts of interest, procedural regularity, propriety, and all that shebang. So these principles really shaped the way I looked at law and the way I did my work everywhere I went. I remember my first foray outside was in 1998 to represent Gambia in the Security Council. But incidentally, I was also lumped up with responsibilities to look after the Sixth Committee. The Sixth Committee is the legal committee of the United Nations. And at the time, the Rome Statute was being drafted. And having just finished drafting school, with all the confidence that I'm a trained common law draftsperson, I should be able to draft law. I am one of the best everywhere in the world. This is the belief that is put to you in drafting school. Huh? So, and just to recall, just before that, I was parliamentary counsel in Gambia. That is,
Yeah.
I was the person drafting the laws, even though it was in an acting capacity. But I left the drafting department for a year. So now coming to New York, they were drafting the Rome Statute. I had to participate in this, and these are the concepts really that helped me make meaningful contributions in the drafting of the Rome Statute. And the fact I was so engrossed and involved in it, I never studied any international criminal law, international human rights law, or international humanitarian law. I never did that in any university in the world. But to participate in the drafting of the statute, I had to read things on my own. And because that is what is expected of a draftsman. You do your research, you study, you understand the situation, and then you are able to come up with something. So to be able to sit there and talk with delegates from the biggest countries in the world who bring in experts from the top universities. So to be able to sit there and exchange with these people, influence the decisions, do drafts, submit them, and get them approved. And so you have to really have done your work very well. So I am thankful. And since then, I never studied any IHL. From there, I was able to work as an IHL lawyer, and yeah,
The rest
there
is
you have it.
history.
That actually opened the door for me to
Mhm.
later become an international prosecutor and stuff like that. But these are cases really that helped me along the way and shaped my understanding of law. Really, yes. I mean, every judicial process would require the observance to the letter of this important maxim. Justice must not just be done, it must be seen to be done. And that really
Yeah.
helped me in my career. Thank
As,
you.
a, as an international attorney, with all of the work that you've done through the UN international legal systems or frameworks that are available, my hope initially was to go through them sequentially for us to see each of them what you've done there. But I feel as though we are going to spend so much time and there are several things to go through. But really, in the composition of all of it, at what period would you consider as sort of the defining moment where you perhaps feel as though you're like, yes, this is a Gambian I've arrived, right? And I feel like that is important for us to pinpoint, because at the time, some of the things that you've done, you're perhaps the first black person or person of color to do some of those works or to be in some of those positions. Either is the investigation of Omar al-Bashir, for example, or in certain other capacities, or Istimo. In the combination of things, really, what was the defining moment where you really, in personally and internally, stop a little bit and say, yeah, I've arrived. This is Essa Faal, all the work that, you know what I'm saying? Yes, I think that is important.
It's an interesting question. It's
Hmm.
difficult to pinpoint at any one particular point. But I'll take you through a few issues which would really show the significance of things. I remember at the UN Security Council, Gambia had three delegates: the permanent representative, the Chancellor and Head of Chancery, and Essa. The US, they had 137 delegates and a State Department and a plane that is ready, either in New York or in Washington, to just support the mission. The UK had close to 80 or so people, including a back office that was happening. So here I am, the sole technical player, having to deal with every legal issue and having to coordinate Gambia's presidency at the Security Council, which is a big task to coordinate the presidency of the Security Council. But I was able to at least lead or single-handedly draft about 8 resolutions at the UN Security Council. I'm not bragging, but this is true. As my permanent representative, they used to call us the magic team. They did not know how we were doing it. I participate in 2, 3 meetings at the same time. But for me, I was learning, but more significantly, I was carrying Gambia's flag. I cannot let Gambia down. My wife, if we no longer married, if anyone would ask her, she would tell you that I will come back at home at 11 p.m. You see, and I would go to my study and work till 3, 4 a.m. and go back to the Security Council the next morning and be there at 8:30. Because there was an enormous responsibility on our shoulders, and I had to deliver for my country. And I believe I did. And that was the reason why, as soon as we finished Security Council, several ambassadors came together, including Sergio Vieira de Melo, who was touted to be the next Secretary General after Kofi Annan. Unfortunately, he died in Baghdad. He was given the singular honor of setting up the mission in East Timor. And he asked, and they together discussed that I should go to East Timor and help de Melo. I think that was a great honor. But the other significant one is when I went to East Timor. This is a civil law system of justice. I was together with some lady that I trained, we were the only 2 people who were appointed as international prosecutors in East Timor. My office had 148 staff.
Wow.
Only 2 of us were appointed as international lawyers. Not only that, I mean, I went to East Timor in year 2000. On year 2003, I was appointed Deputy General Prosecutor and later Chief of Prosecution, a black man. In my office, I think it was only 18 black people out of 148 staff. So some may call it luck. Some may call it hard work. I call it a combination of both. But at least my boss then had so much confidence in me that she was the former head of Kripos in Norway. The Kripos is almost the equivalent of the FBI in Norway.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in East Timor, incidentally, I had 3 jobs. I was working in 3 different offices. I was the only one person who was doing that. I set up the prosecution service, right? I was working as an international prosecutor at the serious crimes, and I was helping organize the judiciary, right? So, and in addition to my responsibilities as the person coordinating the prosecution, I write, or some I wrote single-handedly, some laws in East Timor. I wrote the law on the defense service, legal aid service. I wrote the law on prisons. I participated in writing the Regulation 15, which is it establishes the courts and the legal procedures and so forth. So I think my appointment really in 2003 as Deputy Prosecutor General and later Chief of Prosecution was so big that I was interviewed on the Washington Post. I was young and, happy-go-lucky guy, you know. So it was put on the Washington Post. I think that was big at the time. But also, so when I left and joined the International Development Law Organization, I was made the head of the large projects unit. That is, every project that we have that is up to $1 million or above, I'll be responsible for organizing, supervising, and coordinating it. And that took me to Afghanistan, where IDLO had 2 major projects. And really, the projects were failing simply because also at the time, uh, there was great competition between these organizations that offer justice sector reform services. Those of you living in the US, you know organizations like Checky, like MSI, Management Sciences International, or something like that. A lot of these organizations offering justice sector reform services, training, and things like that. So there was a big competition, and IDLO was getting a bad rap in Afghanistan. I came there as a black man to salvage those projects. What saved me is my deen, my faith as a Muslim. I negotiated with the Chief Justice, who was Taliban, clearly Taliban. And it happened in Ramadan. By the grace of God, he signed my memorandum of understanding to help organize the judiciary in Afghanistan and offer training to Afghan judges. I did that. And I also did the one for, actually, I can claim, really, I've never said it anywhere, but I wrote the project document that established the law school in Kabul as part of Kabul University, because my project was accepted, and then I hired experts from Egypt. I paid the money, and that was an Italian funded project. We had two projects, one funded by Italy and another funded by Canada. So that too was great. I mean, look, negotiating with these people, the only thing that saved me really, the only thing that gave me their audience was my deed. Alhamdulillah. So that was interesting. And
To the
when I
court.
joined,
I think the
when I
court,
joined,
yes. That's an important area I think most people are interested in. But yes.
yeah, the ICC, you mean? Well, I
Hmm.
went to the ICC. I first went there to negotiate a deal between IDLO and the ICC.
Hmm.
And the prosecutor and deputy prosecutors had really heard about me, what I did in East Timor and things like that. So they invited me for a chat. I went, and they thought that I should lead their Darfur investigations, because 3 years down the line after the UN Security Council referral, they were having difficulties. So I went. They invited me to the office. I went there. I didn't expect it, but they gave me an exam. So, but ICC, they recruit.
Hmm.
So, but incidentally, I may have done very well. I was interviewed instantly, and they were happy with what they had. So they arranged for me to meet Ocampo, the then prosecutor. He who took an immediate liking for me. I don't know why, but he did. So the job was P4, but I was already P5 at the time.
Hmm.
So we had arranged for them to do a matching salary and stuff like that. So that's how I joined the ICC. And 6 months later, I was able to produce warrant of arrest for Ahmad Haroon and Ali Kushib. And then few months later, I became senior trial lawyer, and uh, and I produced the Omar al-Bashir case, the first warrant of arrest for genocide for a sitting head of state. So I was the only black senior trial lawyer at the ICC. And okay, soon after that, I left because I was there for 5.5 years or thereabout. Then I went into defense, because also I was getting bored at the ICC. I have just done the biggest case at the ICC, because Omar Basir, the Sudan case, was the biggest case.
Hmm.
300,000 people killed. It was described as the world's worst humanitarian disaster.
Hmm.
So this case was given to me, the first case of genocide at the ICC. So you can't beat that.
Yeah.
What else? Sitting head of state. So I did it. So then I realized also that at the time, we had a Gambian as deputy prosecutor who also wanted to be prosecutor, and I supported her to become prosecutor. That's my sister Fatou Bensouda.
Hmm.
What does that mean for me? I am senior trial lawyer. When Fatou traveled, I would be the one overseeing the prosecution division of the
Hmm.
prosecutor. So what else for me?
Yeah.
Because I can't get a promotion because that was the end of the professional line. The next level was by election. That was deputy prosecutor and prosecutor. A Gambian is already elected as deputy prosecutor and wants to be prosecutor. It therefore means that my growth as a prosecutor at the international level is almost plateaued.
Yeah.
I can't go any further. So I said, okay. And I was really getting frustrated and tired at the ICC because while there too, because of my level, lead prosecuting counsel, senior trial lawyer, I was the most senior one. So I was the one acting when the deputy prosecutor was not there, And so it meant a lot.
Yeah.
All the people, a lot of the frustrations that ICC staff suffered, especially those at the prosecution department, they bring to me Chinese, Indian, Tubab, Black. They all come to me and bring their problems because they had trust in me that this person will fight for them. This person would get it right for them. And because of that, I had a lot of things come to me. And up to a point, I was really tired. I said, okay, let me resign from ICC and go and try my hand in international defense. So when I left, I I got the Kenya cases.
Yeah.
So I
Uh,
did those
how
things.
how was the transition for like? And if you may also tell us a little bit, what are some of the most important qualities that every prosecutor should have, that you thought you did brilliantly as a quality, as a professional quality that made your job different from most people who perhaps haven't succeeded in the role that you occupy?
For a prosecutor, you see, the work of a prosecutor is very tedious. We just talked about Wilmington and DPP.
Yeah.
You must prove your case beyond reasonable doubt.
Hmm.
So that is a lofty level. It's a very high level to reach, especially in international criminal cases. These are big, these are massive cases.
Hmm.
So you have to be astute as a prosecutor. You have to be thorough. You have to be able to plan. You have to be deeply organized. Maybe you cannot have all these qualities in one person, but you have to have a team that would give you all this. But also you have to be a good strategist. Your legal knowledge has to be very sound. It's a combination of all these things, you can be a good prosecutor. But you see, a lot of this is not through education. It's not through learning. Some of these things are God's gift to you. Okay, some of it is also comes through experience or constant practice, and you can acquire a lot of these skills. For me, the advantage I had was by the time I went to the ICC to become senior trial lawyer, I have had lots of other important experiences. The diplomacy and the politics of international law. You can't beat the Security Council. That's the height of it.
Yeah.
I was there for 2 years, and on two separate occasions, I coordinated the work of the Security Council. So you can't beat that. At East Timor, this was a country in transition. And countries in transition, they come with all the baggage of all the problems of lack of rule of law. So to reorganize that society and establish good prosecution institutions and leading those prosecutions, organizing the work of the prosecution office, managing the staff and all that gave me a unique experience. But when I went to the ICC to lead the investigations, that also gave me another interesting perspective, leading the investigations itself. But then from there, I went back to organizing the case and becoming the lead prosecuting counsel and so forth. All those experiences really put together made me some sort of a unique lawyer at the OTP. Not many people have the kind of experience that I have. Some would come as straight prosecutor. In fact, a lot of the prosecutors never prosecuted a case in their domestic jurisdictions. But remember, by the time I went to the UN, I was doing a lot of prosecution in Gambia, right? And perhaps what I did in Gambia, a lot of people don't know, but I did a lot of things in my short career in Gambia. I mean, I was lead counsel at that young age, you know. I was the only lead counsel as a lawyer with two years experience. I became lead counsel. And for the biggest commissions of inquiry of public corporations, all the public corporations were under my docket. I did GPTC. I did Gambia Ports Authority. For those who are much younger, GPTC is Gambia Public Transport Corporation. Gambia Ports Authority, GAMTEL, Gambia Civil Aviation Authority, Livestock Marketing Board. I did all those as lead counsel in the Commission of Inquiry and unearthed crazy things. Oh, yes. I was almost in the newspapers almost every day. You know, and you know, so I prosecuted a lot of cases. So by the time I went to the ICC, I also had domestic experience, which is different from a lot of laws. And I also participated in the writing of the Rome Statute and have the pre-drafting history. I have the knowledge and so forth. So I was basically almost a unique lawyer at OTP. So when I left, really to go to defense, it was not a happy moment for the office of the prosecutor.
And I can, I was just gonna say, I can imagine, and that brings me to one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, were there ethical considerations? Because on one hand, yes, so, and if we can explore that a little bit, yes.
Important ethical considerations, of course. I just have to be thankful to God and say I was saved by God for the Kenya cases. When I joined the Kenya cases as co-group counsel, the OTP challenged my appointment.
Wow, I didn't know that.
On conflict of interest grounds. So we went to court. So I won at the pretrial chamber. I won at the appeals chamber. They appealed and I won at the appeals chamber. But the appeals chamber remanded some issue to the pretrial chamber and I won at the pretrial chamber again. God just had it that I would not know anything about Kenya. You know, when Mrs. Benfielder used to travel, sometimes I would act as acting head of OTP. And I would have to attend the meetings and so forth. And they brought the records of all the meetings. There is no single meeting that I attended on which the word Kenya was mentioned.
Wow.
Yeah. And yes, the court did an audit of the system. I only saw 2 documents on which the word Kenya was written. One was a public document shared to me by the court, shared with me by the court, and the other by the prosecutor. These are just public documents. So I just say to myself, but I was connected to the case at one point because the person leading the Kenya case at the time was borrowed from my team. She was one of my deputies. So she was borrowed to come and lead the Kenya case. Because I was asked to do it, I said, no, I'm just too busy, too tired. And I cannot be running 2 very big cases at a time. So this lady was taken to do the case. But she was required by the prosecutor to give him a case hypothesis. She has never done a case hypothesis before. So she came to me for help. So I gave her an outline and guidance as to how to do it. So she wrote the case hypothesis for Kenya and brought the documents to me. So she did not give me a copy as such. She just came with a hard copy and said, take a look. So I looked at it and made some markings, suggestions, and gave it back to her. And she left. So that evidence was brought out in court. And the court says, well, case hypothesis is nothing. It's just how to anchor an investigation of a case and how to structure and organize the investigation. So that has nothing to do with confidential matters of the case. That saved me. So the OTP challenged and we won. So I was allowed to do The first case, that was the Uhuru Kenyatta and Francis Mutaura case. So we won that case, and immediately afterwards, we were hired to represent William Ruto because the Uhuru Kenyatta case did not go beyond confirmation. It ended soon after confirmation. But the William Ruto case was already confirmed and set for trial. So we were hired to do that one as well. So we represented William Ruto for trial. It did not go beyond second half submissions, that is, no case to answer submissions. And we won at that stage. And so yes, these are important landmark cases, really. But the second Kenya case was, William Ruto case, was marred with a lot of controversy because there was a lot of bribery and tampering of the witnesses. But this was discovered by us as a defense, and we went to the prosecution and we gave them a letter outlining the scheme that we have discovered and asked the prosecution to investigate it because this was really very, very important. And yes, they did. Are you there?
But yes, Essa, I hear you.
Okay.
Yes, please proceed.
Yeah. So, but that case is really important for this concept that I in fact raised earlier, that justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to be done. There has to be confidence in legal processes. And the Kenya case, God, raised so much doubts as to the propriety of the legal processes. And that is the reason why we won it at the end of the day. So these are interesting experiences, really.
Yeah.
But the height of my career, to be quite candid, is the TRRC, simply because the matters were too close to home. I knew some of the players, I knew some of the victims, some of the stories I am familiar with, because while abroad working in justice, we were very concerned about what was happening at home. Especially human rights violations and so forth. I recall there were times when I personally was very much on edge because I do come to Gambia every 3 months. I used to come to Gambia every 3 months. And there was a time when it was published in the papers that there are 3 Gambian lawyers who will prosecute Jammeh. So they put Asan Jallo, Fatou Bensouda, and Essa Faal, and they put my picture there. Can you imagine how scary that must have been at the
Yeah.
time? So we heard about the disappearances and the killings and stuff like that. So to be chosen to come and do the TRRC really was something. It was I guess it was a statement of great confidence in my abilities as a lawyer and also as a patriot. And it was responsibilities that I took very seriously. And that is why, when it came to writing the report of the TRRC, it was not my responsibility to write reports. My job was to lead the presentation of the evidence and to advise the Commission on law, direct the investigations, present the evidence, and guide the Commission on matters of law. That was my job. But I was faced with a situation. These reports had to be written. Who would write them? That was the dilemma. You worked at the TRRC,
Yeah.
so you know
Yeah.
capacity of the people who
It's
were
a
there.
problem.
We
Yeah.
did not have we did not have a unit that was responsible for doing this. Ordinarily, we should have had a unit that would do it. We did not have. So we had to do something. And I had to make the sacrifice. I put together my legal team and said, look, if we do not write the reports and the recommendations for the commission, there is no way it's going to be written. You
Yeah.
know? So we hired an external consultant to help us, Abitijan Cole. We went to uni together. Great guy. But there was also only so much he could do. He did not understand the context. He did not know some of the issues. I then brought in Abdullah Fati because I had read a lot of his writings. I have never met him at the time. I did not know him. I have never met him. But I used to enjoy reading his writings, his analytical skills. So I said, I think this is a guy I can bring on board. So I contacted him. He was happy to join, and then I brought him on board. But then a lot of the subject matters at the TRRC required specialization.
Mhm.
We did not have people who were really qualified to do that. But also, this required reading a lot of the evidence
Mhm.
to be able to write the reports. But there are also like cross-cutting issues here and there, how to deal with that.
Yeah.
So I had to get some of my staff in The Hague who are specialized in some of these areas to help me. So I'll give them summaries of the evidence, and they would do a summary report. They would do a report and send it to me, and I would revise the report and edit it, and then present it. And I would personally write the recommendations. So, so we worked together really and wrote the reports. But all these reports had to be presented to the commissioners for approval. And some of the issues elicited serious and heated debates. Remember, TRRC, you had people from different political persuasions and different levels of education. So I had to sit there and present every single report. You see, people think the TRRC is one report. No, every subject matter at the TRRC had one big report in which all the evidence was considered and analyzed and positions taken on it. But then there is this big compendium that puts together all the issues and the recommendations, which I wrote personally from A to Z. And to do that, I and some of my colleagues had to be spending the night at the TRRC.
Yeah.
But look, this is national sacrifice. If if our countries have so much trust and confidence in us to give us a responsibility, we owe it to the people to deliver on that, and that's why I took it very very seriously. Uh, you know, uh, but I am happy that we did a good job. Out
Yeah.
of 268 recommendations that we gave to government, at least they accepted 265 recommendations. I am sure at the time they did not know that I organized this big task
Yeah.
and did the reports. And so, but now, they
Yeah.
it's Essa is because they think that I now have a big point on them. But it's not
Yeah.
about a point. This is about what is best for our country. And that is what I try to do. Even in the recommendations, sometimes we tried not to tie government's hands, especially on the accountability issue. We gave them a lot of options as to what they can consider. So it was the choice of the government to choose this accountability mechanism that they have adopted.
Yeah.
So for me, but people do say, oh, Essa jumped into politics early. He abandoned the TRRC and that and that. Nothing is further from the truth. Nothing is further from the truth. I wanted to resign from the TRRC at the beginning of June because by then the reports were written. But it's only the compendium that was ready to be given to government. They refused to accept it and extended the TRRC for a further 6 months because they suspected that Essa was going to go into politics. And they believed that the only way to stop him was to extend the TRRC. So they refused that report and extended the TRRC. I had no choice. I had to stay on because this is absolutely important. This
Mhm.
is fundamental. I cannot reconcile myself with, failure to really complete this task to its logical conclusion. So I stayed on. And I made sure that all the individual reports were approved and signed by the commission. The compendium was approved and signed by the commission. And I handed everything over to the chairman. And he says, Mr. Faal, your work is finished. That's when I resigned. So when people say he did not finish TRRC, it's a lie.
Yeah.
But the commission chose to stay on. All right? And I cannot sit here and really question why they did. Okay, in the first instance, there was still some work to be done. Some editorial work needed to be done. We are lawyers, we are not editors. So Baba Gale Jallo was an editor, but he was sick. So, and he was away from office for a long time, but they managed to arrange for him to review some of the reports and adjust language here and there. Why they stayed on until December, it's only them who can explain. But as far as I'm concerned, by August, everything was done and dusted from my end, and I handed it over. The only thing that was left was the policy on amnesty and how to do reparations. But I personally did the reparations formula. Okay, Anti-Adelaide led the issue of the reparations policy and the regulations. I helped revise the draft law. It was passed. But how to actually execute the reparations? I did the formula and gave it to Mariama and the team, and they executed it. And we did such a brilliant formula. It's like a check menu. You see, a checklist of things, like a menu, drop-down menu. Torture, this is the minimum you would have to pay. What are the aggravating factors? If your arm is broken, X much. If your head is damaged, X much. If your leg is damaged, X much. We did it in such a scientific way that one could easily calculate one's entitlement. But the biggest legal issue for us was we knew that the $50 million allocation by government was woefully inadequate. So we did some legal gymnastics. We allocated the 50 million that was available and then passed a judgment debt on the government, because the law says that any award of damages, any award of reparation, rather, is considered as a judgment debt. It's, the TRRC, any award it gives is like that a decision of the High Court.
Court, yeah.
So if you award reparations, it's like the High Court is awarding reparations. So we passed an order that is a judgment debt on government. So, and that was going to be another $100 million. But to further strengthen that also, we asked that there should be further consideration of reparations post TRRC. And government complied with all those things, except the fact that they haven't yet given the additional money. Yeah. So having achieved all that, really, we were happy that we did a great TRRC. And what people don't realize is, for TRRCs to succeed, it has to capture the attention of the country. If people don't watch, people will not know the truth. People will not learn from it. People will not reconcile, and there won't be unity or unification. So we had to be creative in the way we did the TRRC to capture the attention of the state, of the nation, of the people. And I believe to God that we have succeeded greatly in doing that. Not just what was happening in the in the hearing room, but also what you guys were doing out there, getting the people to be interested, the caravans and the listening circles and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so,
Now,
so, so these
yeah,
are highlights really that
yeah,
punctuate my experience and
yeah.
make me pick
I
which
know.
is more
No, no, totally. I think we can go over and over. And as you're deliberating on them, it just dawned on me your encounter. I guess it's not even an encounter, but you leading Edward Singate at the TRRC. I think for
ah.
most people, I'm sure you hear a lot of stories. That was masterful because I think for the most part, for most, because what people don't really understand is before you come and have audience with people that appear before the commission, there's a lot of work that go on underneath what people see in the full glare of Essa Faal versus somebody else, which people mostly enjoy. And so for them, that encounter was, oh, for the first time, at least for some of your critics, oh, we have somebody. We have Essa has his match for once. And so and but also there were other encounters too. Like I remember when we had Honorable Alhaji Usainu Dabo in terms of the back and forth with
Yeah,
legal philosophy, his legal orientation and yours, and that was
yeah,
pretty educative for some
yeah.
of the young lawyers to say. But particularly, I bring Edward to ask you: were there specific like cases that you remember where you sat back and feel as though everything you're looking for, I mean, most part, I think everything legally you're looking for, you get. But the Edwards own, for most people, they didn't understand the nuances of the circles that you were creating around him to put him in them. But was that something you look back on and be like, yeah, people don't understand this process, but I knew what I was doing?
Yes, really. I think if I would be teaching advocacy at law school, I would use the Edward Singate examination. I don't want to brag,
Mhm.
but I think that was a brilliant expose of great advocacy skills. Sometimes I marveled at where these ideas or approaches came from, but I thank God. I thank God for the simple fact that this was a very, very challenging one of someone who has studied me from day one at TRRC because he knew he was going to come to TRRC. So he studied my every examination. So Singate is a big strategist and a very intelligent person. And with the discipline that is rarely known among ordinary Gambians, the discipline of a trained officer. I recall when I was in New York, he used to come there for meetings. This is the guy who can come to New York, do all his meetings without coming to our office or asking for cards to go and do duty-free shopping. He was that disciplined. So when I faced him, I knew that this would require top draw from me. And boy, God helped me in a way that I did not believe. As we were going into it, ideas that I never knew before were coming into my head, new strategies were coming into my head, not because I have learned them anywhere, but because I was helped by the Almighty. I always do say this in Wolof, fi ken munut, ku yalla dimbale rek mo fi am. And God did help me. God did help me greatly. For anyone, let them look at the last 10 minutes of Edward Singate testimony. 52 questions, all of which he lied. And it was obvious that he did. It was so obvious, patently obvious. That was the last trap. That was the last setup. And that's why he said, even if the heavens fall, I will not say what you want. I said to him, even if the heavens fall, you will never say the truth about these things. And that was the end of it. I'm just paraphrasing. And that was the beauty of it. But what people also failed to realize was that Singate was my easiest witness because of his legal knowledge and his game plan. His game plan was to impress Gambians with the fact that I am cooperating, I am here. That was his game plan. But he was very much afraid of the Korosise issue. So he accepted all the allegations, 14 murders, he accepted all of them. But what he wanted to do was to put us in a legal loophole.
Mm-hmm.
I accept moral responsibility. I was not satisfied with that, and I would never be satisfied with that.
And the command, the
Have
chain of command that he kept
yes,
insisting on. Yes.
yeah. So I had to tie him to strict legal responsibility, be it individual criminal responsibility or command responsibility. I was not even satisfied with command responsibility. These were important concepts at play, but ordinary listeners would not understand what is going on. But I wanted to tie him with both responsibilities. You recall there is this part at the beginning, November 11, about whether when they returned to State House, they discussed what they were going to do with the ringleaders. He says Jammeh gave the order. I was not satisfied with that. I wanted to build a case of conspiracy. I wanted to build a case of a common plan to go and execute. He wanted diminished responsibility, diminished in the sense that this was an order, so he is just a subordinate. I wanted him as a principal. So these are important legal concepts that non-lawyers would probably not get. They would, oh, he's wasting his time, he has answered the question. No. I wanted something deeper. That's why sometimes I would ask him, if you were charged before a criminal court on this issue, how would you plead? He says, I will plead guilty. I thought that was masterclass.
Yeah.
I thought that was masterclass. And to get him to accept that for 14 different killings, I think it was brilliant. This is one that I would take and say, yes, I did it.
Yeah.
But the beauty is, he gave me something that I did not have. And I went on a fishing expedition. So I respected all the rules of cross-examination. Little baby steps. And boy, he rewarded it. Remember, Kebute Jafune was killed at Denton Bridge. He used to be the drummer for UDP. He was killed at Denton Bridge together with a woman whose breast was sliced off. It's him, Yankuba Ture, and Peter and their platoon. They ambushed these guys at Denton Bridge. Dabo was coming from North Bank via Bara. And this was the welcome party that was going to receive him. They were ambushed at Denton Bridge. And this is when Kebute Jafune, they were asked to alight from the vehicles. They were made to lie down. They were being beaten and trampled upon, and Kebute Jafune was killed there. I did not have the evidence, full evidence. He gave it to me. He explained everything, how it happened.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, the Singate cross-examination was a masterclass. The other cross that was a masterclass was Dr. Mbo. At the point,
That was
he
good.
forgot himself, and he said to me, Mr. Faal, you see, you are seeming to become an expert on HIV/AIDS. I said, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Because also I prepared. You know, when we finished law school, no, I hadn't finished law school yet. I was in law school. No, I had just finished law school. Alaji Marong was doing the Dr. Hector Loom case. We were just young lawyers, fresh. And this was the case of death during operation. This woman was pregnant, and Dr. Loom performed an abortion on her, and she died on the operating table. And I marveled at how this young man prepared for this trial. His brother-in-law was a doctor, medical doctor. So every day he will sit with him and learn everything about abortions and operations. So by the time he went to court, he was a near expert on that. So from there, you know, I learned that to do certain kinds of examinations, you have to be very, very prepared. You have to have a good plan, but you have to know your subject matter. Perhaps that's the reason why lawyers are called learned people.
I know. Well, you know, I think also to some extent, what could make the case that because of the brilliance that you exuded during your time as lead counsel of the TRRC, there was a
Thank you.
cross sectoral admiration and respect for your work.
Oh,
So much so
thank
that you know there were corners of the society that almost start to postulate that Essa should is the kind of individual that we need in our leadership positions. And it would be fair to say that perhaps that also culminated into you making the decision as hard as it is, because I suspect prior to TRRC, you are getting to the highest level of international legal
you.
professional accomplishment. There couldn't be anything more in terms of where you could, I mean, the ceiling, I think you are getting there in terms of the
Yeah.
class of professional level that you can get as a lawyer in the international system. But really, you made the decision and you entered politics in the Gambia. And during the first elections that happened, you stood as an independent candidate. And so the admiration and also the encouragement and the love did not seem to translate so much, even though the time was very close. The proximity between when you declared and the election was very limited. It did not translate into votes in the way that a lot of people expected. So, in terms of timeline, I think that was a problem. And so, I would like us to begin the conversation there in terms of the politics. What have you learned from last elections that you wish you had known earlier? And if there's anything you would have done differently that you think you had done wrong um, for the last elections going into December?
Thank you. This is a very important question. Let me say, I do not regret for a moment going into politics. Our country seriously needs help. We need people who see only Gambia and will work assiduously for the development of our country and no other interest. We need that for Gambia. We need to be like other countries. We need to be developing. We need to create better society for our people. And for that reason, I do not regret for a moment getting into politics. But I was never a politician. In my house, politics is not discussed. Even when we just sit and argue, my dad will come out, Paesa, politics. Because the thing is, those days, we were all shielded by our families. All they wanted is go abroad, make a big name for Gambia, make lots of money, and bring it for them at home. That's what people were interested in. They did not want us to be caught up in politics and with all the shenanigans that happen in politics. So for me, really, whilst I was doing TRRC, Groups of people will come to my family home to try to convince me to go into politics. Some would try to talk to my parents to convince them to allow me to get into politics. You remember when COVID struck, I, the first day COVID was announced in Gambia, I had, I emptied my bank accounts in Gambia and bought food, at least what that money could fetch, to help communities because I knew that it was going to be hard for a lot of people, especially if the approaches that were being used abroad were applied in Gambia. You can't go out. People are not working, they won't have money. So what would they eat? So I spent all the money I had, a few hundreds of thousands, and went to Foyi. It was the closest to me for remote Gambia. And I distributed everything that I had. And I came home quietly, and the next few days I went to Dakar. I came to Dakar, and I realized that in Senegal, they had some interventions. They were planning some interventions on hygiene. That is the washing liquids and the washing stations and stuff like that. I said, maybe I should do this in Gambia. So I withdrew monies from my accounts here in Senegal and bought the detergents, the gloves, the these things, the buckets, and that were used for that purpose. So I went to Gambia. I looked for institutions that can give them to prisons, because prison is always forgotten. But this is a close-knit society where everybody is close to the other person. So they really badly needed this. So I went to prisons. I did the hospital, and the hospital, they needed gloves badly. So I think I gave them 3 cartons or 4 cartons of gloves. And other places like the markets, Serekunda Market, Sukuta Market, and also the mosques around the urban area. That was my contribution. And soon after that, a lot of people approached me to encourage me to continue doing it. I recall a group from England called me to say, we hear you are doing this. We also want to do it. Can we join hands? I said, okay. And they created what we call Gambia fundraisers, GFF, something like that. And we started raising money. And that developed into food aid all over the country. So whilst that was ongoing, people will call our group and say, we want to donate, but we want to give it to one person, Essa. And they would make sure the money comes to me. So I will receive the money on Facebook Live. I will spend the money on Facebook Live to buy the rice, the sugar, the onions, and the other things. And I will distribute it live on Facebook. That generated a lot of trust from Gambians. And a lot of people respected my seriousness and my commitment to the welfare of the people. And the fact that I would make the sacrifice, go into the hinterland, carry onions on my back, carry rice on my head, bags of rice on my head, and deliver it to needy people I have never seen and will probably never again see in my life. It touched a lot of people. I don't use it in my politics because it was not for political purposes. This was me being of service to my needy neighbor. Does not matter what ethnic group you come from, what language you speak, where in the country you come from. I went from Banjul to Basse, Katong to Koila and delivered food aid to everybody that I can reach. People developed love for me just because of what I did. And they had confidence that if this person is entrusted with leadership responsibility in this country, he will take it seriously and he would deliver. And besides, he would not steal our money. You know, this is one of those rare occasions in which a Gambian is given lots of money from random people that I don't know, and nobody complained that a butut, single butut is missing. I thank God. So when the call of Gambians became too amplified, one day by coincidence, I was discussing with my dad. He told me, Essa, in all sincerity, you people are the reason why Gambia is underdeveloped and backward. I said, why are you saying that? I mean, we're doing making all our contributions, we're doing all we can. He says, look, you people are the hope of this country, and all of you are abroad working. Yes, you are doing well, but for yourselves and your immediate families, not Gambian society. If you people would have been home, you enter into the politics and you take over this country, we have hope that this country will go forward. I was deeply touched by what my dad said. And looking at it, I think it's true. If you go abroad and you attend important conferences, there is one refrain that you hear: small country, big noise.
Mhm.
That is how Gambia is described, because we have people with very sharp intellects, with a lot of knowledge, who are working for other countries and other organizations, and probably not Gambia. And I do believe that if a good number of these people would have come back home to work for our country, Gambia would be the better for it. Uh, just to take you back to your uncle, just look at what he has achieved.
Yeah.
He could have achieved all that for Gambia, but the space is not there. Politics in Gambia is made such that a lot of people like us who have achieved a lot abroad would not dare go into the game. They make it so dirty that you would think, no, 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 this is not something I would want to get into. Because nobody would want to be subjected to ridicule, insults, black magic, and all the things that happen in Gambian politics. Look at the other day when this guy just came to me and attacked me with Facebook Live and was insulting my mother.
Yeah.
The only thing I could do is stand there and watch. Some people accuse me of having an altercation. An altercation means this person will talk and you talk, this person talk and you talk. That never happened. I was just standing there watching in amazement. That would not have happened if I had not ventured into politics. So they make politics so dirty that a lot of people like me and you would think twice, three times before we get into it. And I said to myself, perhaps maybe I should just get in, fight hard to get this, and change it for good for Gambia.
Mhm.
Because I want the best and brightest that this country has to offer to come on the table. It does not matter your age, it does not matter your gender, it does not matter your ethnicity, it does not matter where you hail from in this little country. That all of us can unite together and uplift Gambia from this poverty-stricken situation that we are in. When I ventured into the politics, I was getting mind-boggling crowds. There is no party in Gambia that has organized a rally in the same venue that I have organized a rally, and they get more people than I did. There is none. My rally in Banjul, my rally in Buffer Zone, my rally in Birkama, my rally in Birkamaba, my rally in Gambisar, you name it. Up to now, my rally in Buffer Zone cannot be replicated. You see people from Westfield all the way to Churchillstown Junction when Buffer Zone was already full. So I know I was getting the kind of support that was very rare. And it deeply humbled me. What people don't know is I went through a lot of experiences during the campaign. I saw a lot of things which elicited such emotions from me, it's mind-boggling. But I said to myself, you know, I think God is getting me into some interesting experience. But what shocked me really is the result of the elections. I never believed that that was possible. But I know the answer. But I can't prove it. You know, when I was in LLB1, first year law, you would do a dissertation, and I wrote a dissertation on the electoral system in the Gambia. I concluded that Gambian elections cannot be rigged. And that is the belief of most Gambians. Trust me, it's a lie.
Your conclusion is flawed.
If I were to mark that dissertation now, I will give it a failing grade.
Yeah.
Because I ventured into things in which I had no experience of, and I failed to examine the deep vulnerabilities of Gambia's election. But that would be for another day.
Yeah.
I have absolute faith and confidence in the IEC. I do believe that they do their best to run an election. But how could anyone explain 2-3 days before the elections, one political party was looking for agents of Essa, Faal, and UDP. And on election day, 95% of my agents were not there. Why would anyone be interested in doing that? That's the question. And I don't know whether UDP will admit it or not, but a lot of their agents were also not there. Why? Why would anybody be interested in dispersing the agents of a candidate? Because the agents are there to witness and to ensure that what is reported is true. Why would anyone be interested in the agents not being there? I still have the audio. You see, my team had an emergency meeting, and you know what we concluded? These people, maybe they want to rig the elections, but they cannot because UDP will be there. That was our belief. The results that were announced for me are simply unbelievable. I know there was massive rigging, but I don't have the evidence to prove it. Evidence should go beyond suspicion or logic. It has to be based on tangible proof. I don't have it. And that is why when I attended the house of Uncle Ba Usainu to discuss the elections, they had already come up with a document slamming the announced results. I was there, and I encouraged them to use stronger language. That I personally don't believe in the results. I don't. And I made my position clear. In the first place, I didn't know I was going there for that. I thought we were going to discuss what steps next and things like that. But they came up with a statement, fine. I agreed with the statement. I know some people are disappointed that I did not go to court with UDP. And a lot of statements are made about that. But they have to understand me. I believe 100% that the election was stolen. All right? But for me to go to court, I have to have the proof.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the proof. So I said, I am not going to court because I don't have the proof.
Certainly, then you must not be convinced with the side of the proof presented before you by UDP as well, because you're an experienced lawyer.
For that, it is what UDP has. It is not what I have.
Certainly, you could be an
And
ally.
yes, but you see, you'd have to be an ally in something that you believe in. It was never presented to me in the first place. Uh, what I knew was that my people were not present for me to be able to have the kind of evidence that I needed to prove this. I know, I believe 100% that the election was stolen. And I believe that I probably bore the brunt of the theft because it was easier to steal from me than to steal from UDP.
Yeah.
Because there is no historical benchmark for my performance. You understand?
Yes.
But all that is in the past. I mean, I was disappointed with the result. I knew 100% that this could not be the result for me. But also the elections had also a lot of twists. This whole question that if you vote for Essa or Halifa, they probably would not win and therefore vote for Barrow. I don't know how they put it. I don't agree with that. I think it's faulty logic. And I think it's very bad for Gambia. And that is why we are in this situation. But this is the people. This is what Gambians, at least this is what I was made to understand. This was the political calculation of a lot of Gambians. So I accepted that, well, I have to concede defeat since my razor date for condemning the results could not be proven. I therefore decided that I will not go to court. I have to live with the result. And I wished UDP well. Some people were not happy. Maybe they thought that Essa, he's a good lawyer, he would go with UDP to court, and maybe I would have one or two things to contribute, you know. So, and maybe they were disappointed that I did not. But I was there with Kande and others. None of them went to court. I think the court case was only by UDP. So, but the fact of the matter is, I sympathize with their situation. Because all of us lost, and elections in which all of us had confidence that we probably were going to win.
So
But
just before you proceed, Esa, just to be clear, so at that point that you stood by, you went to Dabo's house. Sorry for the noise; it's going to stop momentarily. But at that point, you did not know the extent of evidence in wholesome what UDP has. You just know that it was clear as day to all of you that there was cheating or malpractice in the election. It was strict, but you did not know or you did not have tangible, supportable evidence to support this position.
none of that. I mean, I was asked, I was just called at random to come and to have a meeting with Ba Hussein. So I suggested that we could probably meet at a hotel. And the person I was dealing with just said, but you know that Mr. Dabo is not feeling very well. I said, in that case, I'd be happy to come to his house then if this is the situation. So I went. Uh, there was no prior discussion as to what would be the issue and things like that. So when I went there, they already had a statement prepared. I took a look at it and I said, well, maybe this is not as strong as I would want it to be. And I made a suggestion of a language change. But Hussein accepted it and made the change. And then he wanted us to be with him when he reads it. I said, fine. Because as far as I am concerned, this is just going to be a condemnation of the election and a statement that we are considering further steps. And that was it. So when I returned to my base, we started looking at the steps. What do we have to be able to prove that we were rigged out of these elections? And we did not have it. I had some few videos, all right, and about three constituencies. When they opened my box, my drum, something looking like cut tags dropped in all three occasions. Okay, but I know at least a thing or two about elections. Even that does not prove, it suggests that there may have been tampering.
Mhm.
Okay, but there could be other explanations. And I do not have a copy of the original tags to be able to see whether it's actually the residue of a tag. You see the point? And the
Yes.
tags should be serialized. I don't have numbers. So I went through the process of interrogating this kind of evidence. But also, the fact of the matter is, it's just three places. There were 1,534 constituencies. Huh? De minimis non curat lex. so,
Yes. The law doesn't consider
so,
itself with small things, with little things.
exactly.
Mhm.
So we decided that, okay, we don't have the evidence to prove our case in court. If UDP can prove their case in court, we wish them luck.
Mhm.
Because I don't have to come to be part of the UDP case. What is my locus standi?
Question.
Because I think the electoral law in Gambia is to challenge an election, you would have had to be a candidate. Okay, but I extended my interpretation that to challenge something for the benefit of UDP, I have to have been the UDP candidate. That is, I may be wrong legally, but this is my interpretation at that moment. So as a result, we decided that, okay, we will not go to court. UDP has more lawyers than Essa and of good quality, they can win their case in court.
Yeah, I think
But look at
for
what
most,
happened.
yeah, I think the sentiment for most people is, knowing the caliber, again, to your point of lawyer that you are and the experience, and also being involved in the elections, even a show of solidarity publicly would have perhaps gone, far and added weight to what UDP wanted to do. But
No,
also,
no, I agree.
the question I wanted to ask you is later on, UDP, when their case was kicked out of the Supreme Court for technicalities, they've made a decision to bring all of the evidence out, and I'm sure I haven't seen the evidence, but they argue that they've presented it out. Now, if you when you see that evidence that they presented of malpractice, what did you make of it? Is that in tandem with some of the suspicions that you've had, or is this just selectively to UDP and what they consider as election is taken away from them?
I think that first, I do not agree that that case should have been dismissed on technical grounds because these are fundamental, are so important. It's about governance of the 5 years.
Essa, we're
This
losing
is the
you.
first
Are you with
case.
me? Essa, are you with me? Okay,
Yes, I
good.
am.
Now I can see you. Yes, and
Yes.
yes, please take that again.
Okay. Yeah. So I said that first of all, I do not agree with the approach of the Supreme Court in dismissing the case on the grounds of technicality. I believe that the issues were so far too important to be dismissed on technical grounds. Really, this is an occasion in which they should have considered the substance of the matter. I think also that UDP has raised some important points. Again, the question is whether what they were able to show was so systematic it the outcome of the elections. Because again, for election cases, you should be able to show that this materially affects the results. So if you would that really materially affect the outcome? That is the issue, the area where I have a problem with. So, but it's not for me to decide. I had to consider what case do I have if I want to go to court. UDP had to consider the same. GDC had to consider the same. All right? And each of us was to come up with its own case. We could ask for consolidation, but each of us was to really come up with our own cases. At least that is the understanding I had. And I realized that, well, much as I sympathize with this situation, I do not have the evidence to prove my belief. And therefore, but I supported that UDP would take the matter to court, and I wish them luck. But that's all I can do. Some people couch this as a matter of trust. No, it's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with that. I was not, in fact, the only candidate or party that was there. But when it comes to going to court, it is Essa that they similar. Perhaps maybe some people thought that I may be able to contribute something. But I think the lawyer they had, Bori Ture, is an eminent lawyer. He's good in his trade. So, but I mean, these are all lessons really for the future. But to be quite candid, I was also worried at that time that the country will go on fire. In fact, while at Ba Husseini's house, I constantly kept begging him to douse the temperature with water. And he had to go out and speak to the people. Tempers were so high that leaders had to say something that would calm the situation down. I think what I did contributed, but people may disagree with me. Some people may not be happy with me. Well, I am sorry. I did not mean to offend anybody. I did what I believe I had to do in order to help calm a situation down. Because at that moment, anybody who saw the situation would know that the country could have just flared up and we would have another post-election violence. At this, I know a thing or two about post-election violence. I pray to God that it would not happen in our country. But going forward, what are the lessons learned? I do know firsthand that a lot of rigging of our elections happen at registration time. But the belief of Gambians is that's the only time there is rigging. No, I say that is not true. But registration time is a place also to help steer an election in one direction or another. And we have all seen what happened during this registration period. Over 20,000 double registration. Has the ICC recommended or submitted anyone for prosecution? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
No, I was saying you meant the IEC. You said ICC.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, 20,000 double registration. That is fraud. That is false declaration, and one can discern a few criminal offenses. I know it's difficult to prosecute 20,000 people, but all those people should be banned from voting maybe for 10 years.
There has to be consequences, yes.
There has to be consequences. So why would anyone, nobody can say that he or she does not know that he's been registered. So that is just one example. But who knows what has happened in the past elections? Because I have never heard an announcement being made about double registration. I am sure it's not a new phenomenon.
No, it's not.
So
Yeah.
that is one issue, and this whole issue of the attestations. You could see government officials or people allied with the government fighting to preserve attestations. Why? Because they know that is where they do their vote padding. All right. So really, and just imagine a 55-year-old person presenting an attestation as the document that should entitle him to be registered. Where was that person for 55 years? It's an important question. Look at all these new birth certificates. Why the sudden surge in new birth certificates? Why would a 60-year-old person present a spanking new, brand new birth certificate? If you are a citizen of the country, you don't have a birth certificate for 60 years, something is fundamentally wrong. So these are all little telltale signs of, right, a person being issued with a document solely for the purposes of enabling that person to vote, but that the person is probably not from the country. I know we have to be careful that there are people living around border towns who have the same right as you and I to vote. Simply because they belong to border countries, border communities rather, which have ties in other communities across the border. People are married, across the border and are entitled to vote. But that said, one has to also acknowledge the fact that a lot of people are enabled to vote simply because they want them to vote a particular way, even though those people do not have any legal right to vote in our elections, which is very sad. I have seen people really celebrating it. I said, these people don't know that they are selling Gambia's sovereignty because they are sharing it with other people who are not entitled to, by enabling those people to have that token, right, which helps them exercise one of their most sacred rights of being a citizen. That is the right to vote. You're giving it away to some other person who's not entitled to. Perhaps they don't know how profound that is. But I think it is deeply offensive, But there you have it. I hope that we'll be able to challenge a lot of these before the revising courts, and I do hope that we'll be able to make big inroads in the register and reducing the new people on the register. I mean, and it's shocking. It's shocking that we have almost how many? Almost 200,000 or close newly registered voters. That is scary,
Yeah.
you know. So, so a lot of these are not entitled.
Yeah.
But vote
Essa,
rigging in Ghana.
go ahead. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I
But
was just.
vote rigging.
No, you're my guest, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that vote rigging in Gambia, election rigging in Gambia, is not just the illegally registered people and stuff like that. It's more about how these elections are conducted. If you bribe people to vote a particular way, that is, have you ever seen anybody arrested for bribery or
No,
prosecuted for bribery?
we've normalized that. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is the exact word. We have normalized it.
Yeah.
And that is terrible.
Yeah.
So that's why elections cannot be free and fair in present day Gambia. And that's
Yeah.
the experience I have. I do hope that we'll be able to prevent it in these upcoming elections. We have tried in the registration to be represented in 100% of the registration centers. We have documented our observations, and we would go to court on some instances. We hope also that our presence in registration centers has deterred a lot of people from being registered. I know it has, but I think the political parties did well
Yeah.
to prevent this.
Yeah.
So hopefully we would be able to also police our elections and ensure that foreigners do not come to Gambia to vote. I think people would be coming to Gambia to vote at very high risks. I hope that they will not come to interfere with our most sacred process. I hope they will not. I also do hope that Gambians would guard against bribery. But Gambia is very hard at the moment. The cost of living is rising every day. The dollar is depreciating every day. People are needy. I mean, 77% of rural folk are poor, and that is exacerbated by the current situation. So people would be vulnerable. So we have to be ready to ensure that we cannot curb the bribery, but to have it limited. I do understand that the incumbent, I had the incumbent has a war chest of over $1 billion. For what? What would they be using that money for? I wish that money was used to build hospitals and schools instead of just as a political war chest. It's a very sad situation for
Yeah.
Gambia. Misplaced priorities is endemic in this government. We have to change it such that the limited resources that are in this country are used for the betterment of the Gambian people. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fall. I have a few more questions and I'll let you go. And I think I'll wrap it up with a little more contentious issue in terms of a comment being made a few days ago. And I think a lot of people are here, they want to see SFR's address in that regard. So I'm going to keep that for last. So I'm telling all of you to stick around just for a few more questions and we'll get through it and we'll let you go. I promise, tops 15 minutes. But Essa, few people I talked to, lawyers both in the Gambia and also outside the Gambia, prominent individuals have had the time to review the Sobea manifesto that is out. And they are nothing short of impressive. In fact, one of them said you should take time to review their education policy. I don't know where they get it from, but it's very thoroughly put together is very thoroughly researched and is something that could change the entire landscape of the education system in the Gambia. And so I thought I should really ask you, to what extent do you involve other experts that are outside the country in terms of the development of the Sobea manifesto, and if there are any three strategic areas in terms of policy that Sobea hopes to put in place, if been given the opportunity to rule, that makes it different as an alternative to the incumbent government that we have today? What are those?
Thank you very much. APP Surveyor, we are blessed with highly educated people, very smart individuals, especially the young people. Look, we want to win elections and give an opportunity to Gambia's best and brightest to come and rule their country. So in so doing, we tried to put together a team of very young Gambians to sit together and think about our manifesto and revamp it and rewrite it. And they came up with this idea of problem and solution approach. They would first identify the problem, make a statement of the problem, and come up with incisive remedial policies to address. And perhaps that's the reason why we have this great manifesto. It's not yet finalized, it's still a work in progress. So some of the ideas would come from me or some of the members of the executive, but a lot of it came from this technical team. The Mustafa Njais, you probably know Mustafa Njai, the Osbobs, the Yankuba Gays, and others, and some ladies, and are involved. Very smart people, and they put this thing together. And I am really happy that they did. There's a much bigger document of about 100 and something pages, but we have an abridged version of about 21 pages, which is a very easy to read document. And that's the one we circulate normally. In terms of some of the policies that I hold dearly to is youth empowerment and women empowerment. Sometimes when we come up with our policies, this government, they just copy some of our ideas. Unfortunately, they do it very badly.
They don't like it when you say that, Essa.
They are now trying to set up a bank to give access to finance for women and youth. That is APP surveyor policy. So clap for
Kudos to APP.
No, but kudos to NPP for copying APP surveyor. I hope they would put it quote unquote by APP surveyor, but it's okay. But one of the policies that I consider to be very good is on youths. We want to introduce a national youth service scheme in which really our first priority would be the re-engineering of the heads of young Gambians, redefine their relationship with the state and with each other. What does it mean to be Gambian? How should they love their country? Concept of. So this is something that we want to see happen. And we, after training on patriotism and Gambianness, on Gambia first, and that whole your Gambian, love your country, love your brother, be your brother or your sister's keeper, and all that, the whole uselessness of tribalism, how we are all one people and all that. Then we should provide the kind of training that young Gambians need really to be useful world citizens in this 21st century. Give them a training, not on being able to memorize and regurgitate things, but on being able to solve problems. Give them skills that are based on technical vocational training that you would find in developed countries, such that we will equip them with what they need to help Gambia develop. But even if they will go out, what they will need to be able to fit and work in those societies. If you look at a lot of our deportation, it's mainly people who have nothing to offer in the societies in which they are. You know, imagine you are a refugee in Germany, you have no skill, you don't have any skill, you can't contribute anything to the German society, they would be happy to deport you. But if you're a medical doctor and have a qualification that is at par with medical degree in Germany, you think they will deport you? No. If one is also a nurse, they will not. So that's why, and we learned from something, that cruise ships come to Gambia to recruit graduates of hotel school. Why? Because they have skills that are at par with people who study hospitality in other countries. And that's why they come to Gambia to recruit them. So just imagine if we would train plumbers, carpenters, builders, masons, engineers, welders, and everything at their level, they will come to Gambia to get them, because the West is suffering from fertility problems. If you go to Germany, you see a lot of clinics are closing. A lot of law firms are closing. Why? Because the owners of those businesses are now aged and there's nobody to replace them. So they need these people. But like what Trump said about Mexicans, we don't need this type of Mexicans. Well, the West, they need mainly people who can contribute to their societies, people with the skills, people who will come to do the jobs that their citizens would probably not do. Road builders, care workers, plumbers, carpenters, builders, and so forth. We can provide those people. So, and people would say, where would you get this money from? I say, we can easily get the money. If anybody knows how much they pay to refugees abroad, say how many, if you have thousands of refugees in Germany, how much would they pay to them for just being refugees and sitting in refugee camps? We say, hang on, allow us to train Gambians, young Gambians, give them the kind of training that you give them in your country, but you help us to fund it. When they are trained and ready and qualified to come and work in your country, right? For every Gambian that you employ, we would accept the deportation of that number of people. You understand? So it's a trade-off. If they employ 100 Gambians, we accept the deportation of 100 Gambians. You understand? So they're getting quality for something that they do not want.
Yeah.
So when these 100 Gambians are deported, they come, we retrain them and give them opportunities. Some may probably even have the chance to go back because they may have been able to speak the language.
Yeah.
So you have a secular migration, but that is anchored on professionals. So the quality is much better.
Yeah.
So and then you have people who will be working abroad and earning a lot of money that they can send abroad. So, and this way also, we change the landscape of Gambia, because if we train builders, they would have a particular standard. And we would say that after 5 years, If you don't have this certificate, you cannot embark on this profession in the country. If you don't have the national certificate on carpentry, I'm sorry, you cannot work as a carpenter because we want standards. We want to
Yes.
stop importing furniture. So we want to have trained Gambians who are able to build, who are able to construct that top quality furniture from abroad. And then we would help recreate what we had in the 70s. Chairman Seka was one company in Gambia that was doing furniture, carpentry, and metalwork. And they were winning exhibitions all over West Africa, employed the bulk of youths in this country. We can help bring back those kinds of companies if we train the Gambians to the requisite level. We can help organize them in companies or individuals, but give them access to finance and equipment. So that way we improve the craft in this country and therefore their delivery. What I'm saying, you see that Gambians, we lose a lot of money as a result of incompetence of people to whom we pay for services. Look at mechanics. 90% of Gambian mechanics don't understand the electronics of modern vehicles. You take your car to them, they damage it. So you have cars, values of hundreds of millions that are lying down, spoiled, simply because you don't have anyone who can repair them. Or those to whom these vehicles were given are not competent. We want to change that. Imagine $100 million worth of cars that could have been running are dumped somewhere. You see a house, it is not properly built, but the owner has put in all the money that is required. But because the person is not proficient, is not competent, he has a house that he hates. You live in the West, you go to some streets, all the houses are identical.
Yes.
It's not possible in Gambia.
It's not. Yeah.
So these are the things we want to change. So we want to be able to provide top vocational training for Gambians. And they will tell me that Essa is just talking, it's not possible. No, it is possible. There is one school in Mariamakunda. Let me just take this call, just briefly.
Sure.
There is a school in Mariamakunda. You know, vocational training students from Netherlands come there for internship.
Wow.
They come there for practicals. Yes, it is possible.
It
They
is.
come there for practicals in Gambia. It is possible. It's organization, it's good human resources, teachers, and so on, and materials or equipment, and commitment also. We can do it. We had vocational education in Gambia some time ago. They stopped it when they created GTTI. But the thing is, look, these people are so fixated on degrees. Gambia will not be built by degree holders. Gambia would be built by blue-collar workers, people who wear overalls and carry tools. Those are the people who build countries, not these pen pushers, those who wear neckties and so on. So, look, we have transformed GTTI to a university. So you putting in the heads of these people that you are the super educated people in this country, those people will want to sit in offices. To build our country, we need the people in the fields, we need the people in the grounds, we need the people in the buildings, we need the people in the industrialized zones, not in the offices. This is what we want to change with our
Yeah.
education and youth policy. Thank you.
Final question, Essa, and I'll let you. Your phone is blowing up, literally. I don't even know how you do it with all the phone calls. But last question. I know you're involved a lot in the coalition conversations, and part of, I think, this unfair criticisms that sometimes you get is this idea which most people perhaps even by now accept as a fact, is Essa, whatever coalition conversations towards December that he's part of, he wants to be the leader, and without being the leader, I don't think that coalition is going to move forward. And of recent, the latest comment made by Chairman Yankuba Dabo of Brikama Area Council, when he was not asked, I think I watched the interview yesterday, but your name just came up unprovoked, and said he is certain that UDP would not go into a coalition with APP Sober. He did not even say APP Sober. He said SFAL, because SFAL has made his position abundantly clear that he does not want a coronation and UDP wants a coronation. So there's a mismatch, and to each their own. And so I want to ask you, as you enter into this, or as you've been into these conversations and spaces, for what sort of partnership APP Soba is looking for, what are some of the ethical values and considerations? In a sense, my question is: UDP has made their position clear. What is APP Sobaya's position as you enter into these conversations? But what is also your response to Chairman Yonko Badabo's comment in terms of what he said? Small parties like yourself, as he calls it, should not have a say in terms of the sort of who becomes the leader of partnerships where big parties that have history of pulling numbers are involved.
Um, I would first of all wish to say that I have a lot of respect for Chairman Yankuba Dabo. I do hope that this respect is not a one-way street. I do hope it's not. I do not believe in name calling. I do not believe in attacking personalities. I also do not believe in speaking ill of people or attempts to minimize them. I don't do that. I hold every Gambian politician with the greatest respect, because these are people who are sacrificing for their country. Nobody has a monopoly of love for this country. It belongs to all of us. As we compete, let's compete meaningfully and with respect. I would not sit in platforms and say certain things of people or of parties. I am deeply involved in coalition talks. In fact, I have been calling for coalition talks since 2002. I recall one instance, I think this was in 2003, when I had an interview with Pamodu Bojang Mimbekeri, and I asked for coalitions. I was insulted by all of the so-called big parties. I was badly insulted. It didn't bother me, because what I am doing is not for me, it's not for personal benefit. I am doing for mother country. I'm doing it for the Gambia. Let people say whatever they want, but any honest Gambian would know that Essa is making a big sacrifice only for one thing: to move Gambia forward. It's not about what I can get. No, it's not. If I wanted to be in government, I would be. Does anybody doubt that? I'm sure they don't doubt that. For some people, they wish me things on the basis of a political calculation affecting other people. Oh, we love Essa, but we want him to be Minister of Justice. Some would say, oh, we love Essa, but we want him only for Vice President. But that is their view. Some would say, we hate his guts. It's their right to do so. So what you hear depends on who speaks. One thing is for certain: nobody would tell you and prove that Essa is dishonest. Nobody would tell you Essa does not have respect for people. Nobody would tell you Essa does not have integrity. Nobody will tell you that Essa does not love his country. Nobody would tell you that Essa does not have some little education. Nobody would tell you that Essa is not committed or cannot do any work. And these are the things that are needed from our leaders. But there is no political conversation in this country now that does not involve my name. If I am so politically insignificant, why bother? Mention me. If I am so politically insignificant. But I'm not bothered by those things. If we don't belong to the same party, we have different or conflicting objectives, you don't go about saying things that would help my cause. The politics, that's the way it is. But equally, at least for me, I don't go out to say negative things about people. My focus for now is helping build a coalition. That is my focus. And everybody who is intimately connected with the coalition building exercise would know that there is none who is contributing more than Essa in making a coalition happen. I can bet my bottom dollar that there will be nobody who can point to any single individual as that person making a greater contribution than Essa to make a coalition happen. There is none who could say it, at least from those who are intimately connected. You know what? I see that I have a responsibility, which is to help unite Gambians into a common front, to help ensure that Gambia puts up a team that is capable of defeating what I consider to be an inept government for our people. And I am doing my best at it. Some people feel uncomfortable when Essa is present. It's not my fault. Others feel intimidated. It's not my fault. But one thing I know is wherever I am, I treat everybody with respect and with dignity. Wherever I am, I try to speak my truth. Whatever I do, I try to be serious. And whatever I do, I try to get the best thing for our country. We may not all agree on everything, and I recognize that. Yes, where I am, I do what I need to do to get the position that I want. Oftentimes, it's not just what I want, but what I believe is best. So if Gambian people think that Essa is the solution to Gambia's problem, that is something that a lot of people say. If you would go to the streets, anywhere, if you ask people, who do you think is the best person to lead Gambia in this present situation, I swear to God, a lot of the people will say Essa. You know why? Because they see I'm honest. They see I'm respectful. They think I have integrity. They think I am hardworking. They think I have the answer to a lot of the problems that we face. It's not my fault. But if some people think that I am a useless nobody, that too is there. I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
I do know not everybody would accept me. Even the prophet was not accepted by everybody, including even from his own home. So who is me, little Essa? I am nobody. But what I will not do is to sit in platforms and speak ill of people or minimize them or trivialize them or say things about them that I don't know anything about. I have a lot of respect for Yanks. I would not say anything about Yanks or against Yanks. I'll leave it at that. But one thing I do know is that I am in coalition talks, and I know that UDP is there. And talks are still ongoing. That speaks volumes. And we are not just in one coalition talk together. So when people speak, they should speak from a point of view of knowledge and not guesswork. All right? And in this business, what happens inside can be very different from what happens outside. So I would not say anything about Youngs other than to say that he is probably speaking from his only limited point of knowledge. He does not know the intimate details about what is happening in coalition talks. One other thing that I should say is we have made a commitment by all entities represented in these coalition talks that we should treat each other with respect and dignity and will not go out and speak ill of each other or criticize each other. Our people also will not go out to attack or criticize representatives or leaders of parties that we are talking to. I see this as a breach of that commitment that was made by the UDP, but I leave it at that. You see, it does not bother me. You see, for me, APP Sobea does not have to be the big party. Essa does not have to be the big party or the big candidate. You know, all I want to be is a good person for Gambia. That's all I want. All I want to do is to be in a place where I can deliver the best I can for this country. Everybody knows I don't need a job. I don't need a job. I don't need to be given anything. Thanks to God, I have worked so hard in my life and I am able to at least take care of myself. I am doing this for our country. And you know what? I cannot please everybody.
No.
I cannot satisfy everybody. Even TRRC, that is being hailed and celebrated everywhere in the world. Even at that, I cannot satisfy everybody. Even with the masterclass examination of Edward Singate, I still cannot convince some people. So for me, I just have to do what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
At these coalition talks, I am doing my utmost to be a unifier. I am doing my utmost to help build a common front. But you know what? I will not do anything that I know would not be in the best interest of Gambia. And that could be inconvenient for some people. I am sorry. I will not be a party to it. I will not do anything to give Gambia what I know is not going to be good for our country. If that is inconvenient for some people, tough luck. I am sorry. I am committed to this country. It's the only country that I have. I could have taken Dutch citizenship. I did not. Gambia is the only country I have. It's the only place for me. I will give my everything for this country. Yes, and if the Gambian people want Essa Faal for president, I will assure you that by the grace of God, when God agrees, it will happen, and nobody can do a thing about it. And I can assure you, it would be one great thing and one great day for our country. Thank you.
Well, I think would be really nice to end at that. Those really, I'll call it a prophecy. I would love to see it because personally, I always tell people, I said, you can say anything about Esafal. I always tell them, you cannot say he's corrupt. You cannot say he's incompetent. You cannot tell me he doesn't work hard enough because I'm intimately familiar with that. So from me to you, I want to wish you all of the best, but I also want to thank you profusely for agreeing to come on the show for being so honest and sincere for us to have these conversations. Because for me, that is my goal, that is my purpose. It's not to pit Essa against each other, but I am willing to ask those questions, and I'll always do that. So this means a lot to me, and I look forward to seeing you in office in some way, shape, or form. I hope it's the president, because I
I
believe, and
mean,
I say this very sincerely, I believe you will do great stuff for the country, and
inshallah.
you are somebody that I deeply respect and admire. So I'm thankful that you took the time to come on the show. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and I hope that it has lived up to your expectation. Thank you
It
so much.
absolutely has. It absolutely has, Essa. Thank you so much to all of our
Thank,
guests. We
thank
had
you.
over 200 people watching on YouTube. We have at some
MashaAllah.
point over 100 people on Facebook as well. And this video is going to be on
MashaAllah.
YouTube if you want to watch, but also share it as well to support what we're doing. And you can also join us on the Bantabat tomorrow on Saturday at 6 p.m. inshallah GMT. Once again, thank you all. Juma Mubarak.